Hello there, good evening and welcome to Political Lens on Voice of the People Television, VOPTV. We are broadcasting on Metro SLTV channel 264. And if you are on YouTube, we are Voice of the People Television. And on other social media platforms, we are at VOPTV Live. This is an interactive conversation. You can call in or send WhatsApp messages to the number scrolling on your screen. Now, the number is 0907-473-2605. I am Chukuma Okoro. And this evening, we are looking at the announcement that Atiku, Obi, and El-Rufai have adopted the Action Democratic Congress, ADC, as the coalition party that will be used to wrest power from the APC in 2027. We'll also examine the prospects of the coalition being able to wrest power from the ruling party. Oh, well, let's bring in our guest. We are joined in the studio here by Mr. Dele Fanimo. Dele is a social and political affairs commentator as well as VOP in-house analyst. Good evening, Mr. Dele Fanimo. And thanks.
Always my pleasure. Good evening.
Always good to have you here.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for coming.
Let's do it again.
Let's do it again. Okay, all right, let's dive into the conversation. Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi, and Nasiru El-Rufai have reportedly agreed to work together and use the ADC as a platform for newly formed opposition political coalition, media reports claim. But other sources also say that it hasn't been ratified, with one stating that it is patently false. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, former Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi, and ex-Kaduna State Governor Nasiru El-Rufai have reportedly adopted the African Democratic Congress, ADC, as the official platform for a new opposition coalition. According to media reports, the trio reached the decision after a high-level meeting held on Tuesday, signaling the formal emergence of the long-anticipated political alliance. In line with that, an anonymous source reportedly confirmed the outcome of the meeting to the media, saying they have adopted the African Democratic Party as the coalition party. All of them, that is Atiku, Obi, El-Rufai, are working together. They came to the conclusion last night, up till the early hours of this morning. You know, politicians meet when we are asleep. And some people are asking, how will good people meet at night when others are sleeping?
Nocturnal meeting.
Nocturnal meeting. Oh, well, the source further disclosed that the meeting included other leaders and stakeholders who subsequently established committees tasked with ironing out the coalition's details and logistics. According to the source, all the leaders and stakeholders of the coalition were there. They set up committees to dot the I's and cross the T's while preparing the way for the eventual public unveiling of the coalition. But effectively, as we speak, the coalition has been born, the insider added. Though the coalition has yet to announce an official unveiling date, the source suggested it will happen very soon. Meanwhile, former Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Babashir Lawal, confirmed that while coalition talks were progressing, the People's Democratic Party was not considered a viable platform for the arrangement. When asked whether Atiku was moving to the ADC and why the PDP was not considered the coalition vehicle, Lawal described the PDP as a house we cannot modify, stressing that its internal problems were too deep-rooted for it to serve as a credible vehicle for change. He said, and I quote, "In all the analysis I've seen so far, nobody has ever bothered about. Let's adopt PDP as a platform. We all agree that PDP has an incurable virus. No antibiotic can cure what is ailing PDP. And we don't want to go into a house that we cannot modify. That is not willing to change. That is not willing to change. So PDP is not in the list." Lawal revealed that the technical committee driving the coalition project had been weighing two main options: to form a new political party, one, or to adopt an existing smaller party with a national spread and reform potential. Do we get another party that we could move into, modify it, upgrade it, and strengthen it for elections? Or do we register a new political party? We have technical committees of experts looking into both of these. And I'm sure as we speak, we are getting to the end of the process. And I think we'll soon announce a party that we'll move into, or maybe we'll register a new party, he said. I think apparently that was before the announcement that ADC has been adopted, you know. And this is from a source, clearly from a source, not either Obi, Atiku, or El-Rufai, or even Babashir Lawal himself. Well, other reports claim that saying ADC was chosen as the coalition vehicle is patently false, even though he confirmed such a meeting took place as he was present. According to the source, 3 presentations were made for the platform to use by the National Coalition Group. The first was a proposal for the registration of a new political party outright, where all parties and groups will find accommodation. Another was to opt for Social Democratic Party, a suggestion championed by El-Rufai. The third option was to adopt the ADC as the preferred coalition vehicle. it was decided to look at the merits and demerits of each and decide on which one of the three he confirmed. Okay, now Dele, let's delve into it. You've heard the intro and the argument. Babachi Lawal is saying, look, we have options. Register a political party afresh. Do they have the time limit available to them to do all of that? Or get into another political party that has a national spread. And this source has said, look, ADC has been adopted by Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi, and El-Rufai as a coalition platform that they will use in 2027 to wrest power from not just Bola Ahmed Tinubu, but from the APC, the All Progressives Congress. Dele, what do you make of this rumored adoption of the ADC as the coalition party for the opposition in 2027? Let's start from that. Let's use that as a take-off point. What do you make of this rumor? Do you think it's something that is real? As we speak, neither of the three people, the major stakeholders, the major promoters have come out to say, or even the debunk. So what do you make of this suggestion?
You see,
or this rumor?
it's a matter of fact that politicians would always look for where their bread is buttered. And in this case, the trio, El-Rufai, Peter Obi, and Atiku, they know that they have a monster to contend with,
Okay.
which is the APC and Tinubu.
Okay.
They have weighed their options. Labour Party is in comatose. There is so much rancor in Labour Party. In one breath, Nigeria Labour Congress, as headed by Joe Ajaero, wants to wrestle the party back to its grip. Abure is still talking tough. Nenadi Usman is also there saying we have authority and power to hold on to the reins of that political party. Okay. So Labour Party is not too good a vehicle. It's either, unfortunately, the brakes are not too good for now. So going down the slope is disaster waiting to happen for Labour Party. Now, PDP as we speak is in ICU. They created a monster in Wike, and unfortunately, they have not been able to find ways and means to curtail this monster. And it has become a bull in China's shop. So they have to contend with that till the end of their program. I mean, to the end of the coming election. So it is not likely that a PDP will get its act. And I'm happy that a prominent member of the party, Lawan, who was also a frontline aspirant during the contestation for power, said that party cannot really hold itself together before the election in 2027. Now, SDP shot itself when it started having altercation, the leadership of SDP, with El-Rufai that came as a forerunner to Atiku and Peter Obi. So technically, they will not be comfortable with SDP. Another thing that is also giving this coalition problem in adopting SDP is that if you look at the ballot paper during voting, SDP is at the lowest rung of the ladder, just over and above Z Labour Party and a few other parties.
Even PDP is at the lower rung.
No, PDP has been on for a while. I mean, you know, everybody has come to identify with the umbrella as the symbol of the party. But now, SDP is just coming up. So on that day of election, there is possibility of people having that mental fatigue of going where SDP is
and all of that.
So they might just say, okay.
So you think that could be a factor?
I'm telling you, that's one of the factors.
You
see, everything counts in politics.
Okay.
Now, ADC is ahead of APC in the ballots because A is common to them, D comes before P.
Okay.
So technically, ADC will come before.
The Labour Party had a good run in the 2023 general election. It is not up there too. It's in between. Hello.
You see, those who voted Labour Party were people that are vast,
informed Nigerians.
and informed, and they are within the age bracket, except for some splinter. They were between the age of 18, which is the voting age, and 35 or 40. So their domain is social media, and anybody playing in the social media would understand some of these dynamics.
So how much of that do you think will change in 2027?
Now, they have chosen the party, which is ADC, for good reasons.
According to sources.
For good reasons. Now, the next layer of this alliance is who becomes the presidential candidate of this party.
We'll come to that. We'll get to that level. Now, there's been no official statement released by either of these three people, like I said. So, is it something that we should run with? Should we ignore it, or are they trying to fly a kite, to gauge the pulse of the people, to see how people will be receptive or rejective of the ADC as a political party? When you respond, we'll go quickly into the history of the ADC as a political party.
You see, ADC is just one of those parties that were registered for future endeavors like this.
It's not just one.
I say it's one of the parties, political parties registered for future engagement like this.
I'd like to have your response. Do you think they are flying a kite?
You see, what they are trying to do is, like you said, flying a kite and say, will Nigerians accept this proposal? But my worry is, if PDP, as comatose as it is, still remains a political party in 2027, it could be the greatest undoing of this coalition, because some of these political party leaders in some of the states will still hold on to PDP. Not that they are fighting for presidential election, but they want to hold on to their enclave in their various states to ensure that the guy, I'm sure it's not all of them who want to decamp to APC, because it's still a party. ADC. Now, what that tells you technically is, if the ruling party gets 45 to 50% of the votes, and then the rest 50 or 55 is shared among the fringe parties and ADC, if it gets formidable, and then PDP gets formidable, because a governor wants to deliver his state for his party, then you now realize that at the end of the day, it's a lose-lose situation for this coalition. I feel that if ADC is going to sail through putting together this contraption, then ADC must factor PDP.
Must factor PDP. When you talk, we'll get into that shortly, because the PDP has also rejected any form of coalition merger with any other political party. What they're saying,
24 hours is too long.
It's too long enough. But I think there's a reason for that. We'll get into all of that. Now, the ADC is clearly not a new party. It's been there since 2000.
Just like any other of these AAC and all that.
But they have also done better than some of these political parties, except for Labour Party. Labour Party, the only difference with them is that in Labour Party had a Mimiko produced as a government.
Yes.
And now
Alex Otti.
They have never. But in 2007, Pat Utomi, the promoter of the Big Ten Coalition, ran on the platform of the ADC.
Yeah.
And he pulled about 50-something thousand votes. Came fourth position. In another time, I think that was in 2011, we had another person, Nwawu, run with the ADC. He came eighth. But in 2019, we had Obedia Malafia, the CBN man that was talking a lot then. He ran on the platform of the ADC and took fifth position. Now, in all of this, does it look like ADC has something to offer as a bribe? Because they already have a structure, they have a base. If, as far back as 2007, Pat Utomi ran on that platform and got first position, out of about 17 presidential candidates, doesn't it tell you that, look, the ADC might actually be a new bride, better than the SDP?
You see, SDP has also made a mark.
Yes, SDP did.
You know?
But you see, El-Rufai has been promoting SDP, despite the fact that he went there to cause trouble. As people speculated that he was actually working for the president to destabilize the party. So we'll get into all of that. So
I don't want to believe that line of argument, okay, because El-Rufai is clearly bitter.
Okay.
And he feels alienated. He has this culture of entitlement in him, okay, politically. And because what he expected from this government, he couldn't get. So definitely, anybody that is saying that El-Rufai is working for this current government may not be saying the truth.
Okay.
But I can tell you that, you see, ADC is not what you can call a political party that is strong nationally.
But they have a spread.
They have a spread.
Okay.
And that spread is also limited. It's not national in outlook.
Okay.
They have their strength in some areas. And they are still, and you know politicians. I recall there was somebody, a distant acquaintance, who was contesting under one unknown political party. He actually, most of these parties that we're talking about, some people go in there for negotiation. They use the party flag to negotiate. Some go as low as commissioner, chairman of board, and
local
parastatal
government chairman.
You understand?
Okay.
So what they do is, by the time they take this ticket, automatically, you know, Nigerian politics is so funny. The moment, as you are seated there now, if you take the ticket of a political party that is just comatose, waiting to be taken, that moment you become Your Excellency. Nobody calls you Chukuma again.
Okay.
And then, so you begin to get followership, and that followership is a function of how much you are able to give out. So, for me, I am not averse to ADC being picked. As a matter of fact, picking ADC would also give level playing ground for those who have come to perch, okay, on that political party. Because nobody is going to say, this is my party. I was here before you. Okay. Most of these people are new entrants to ADC. And so they have equal pedestal at that point where they can negotiate that, look, we all came here for a purpose. I want this, and then there will be horse trading.
Okay. Okay, talking about horse trading, before we get into all of that, you said something about the PDP, you know. If Atiku Abubakar leaves, nobody can take it away the fact that Atiku is still a major stakeholder within the PDP. He has huge followership. You know, he has a chunk of the PDP with him. So let's create a what-if scenario. Atiku Abubakar leaves the PDP and takes a chunk of it. Peter Obi has the obedient movement, very massive by our estimation. Now you have an El-Rufai who is he has some, no matter how little it is, a certain level of people, a certain number of people are disgruntled within the APC. He takes that chunk with him. And between the three of them, they don't paint in the ADC. Isn't that like what happened in 2013-14 when you had the new PDP, you had ACN, you had ANPP and the CPC coming together?
Yes.
So does it look like we are going to see with the ADC? And mind you, LDC also has a followership. So we are looking at 4 blocks now. Is that a reenactment of that thing that happened in 2013?
You see my worry.
Okay.
My worry is, having PDP still formidable. If PDP is as bad as it is for PDP today, okay, if that party remains as it is today, some people are emotionally attached to PDP. They may not want to leave PDP, maybe even at state level.
No. Okay.
At state level. Now, what that tells me is, I have seen this thing play out in so many elections, at the state level, at federal level. You see, some of these political gladiators, they found the ember of discord in opposition parties to destabilize, and so that they would make sure the only person that did it, that the thing backfired, was Niyi Adebayo in 2023.
Okay.
In 2003, when PDP swept the Southwest, leaving Lagos alone.
Okay.
You know what he did? He was in AD, and Professor Adeniran, a very strong PDP stalwart, was angling to become the governor of the state using the PDP vehicle. Now, a non-starter, as at then, Fayose came into the race. Fayose came into the race in Ekiti, came from Ibadan, and he was just doing his thing, just making noise, as they said that time. And do you know that Niyi Adebayo bankrolled Fayose to contest against Professor Adeniran?
Okay.
Now, when he contested against at the primaries of PDP, as soon as Fayose won the ticket, Niyi went back to sleep because he felt Fayose was nobody.
Okay.
But he was looking at the goats. He saw himself as a lion looking at the goats, but he never looked beyond the goat to see the hunter with his gun waiting to devour him. And eventually, Niyi Adebayo lost that election to Fayose.
Okay.
Now, this thing is going to likely play out in the next election. If people rush to ADC and you still have some elements in PDP, there is no way PDP will not capture certain votes in certain areas where they are strong.
No, exactly my point.
And then we'll now have a repeat. Just let me land.
Okay.
We may likely have a repeat of what happened between PDP and Labour Party in 2023.
Okay.
Which would make ADC strong, PDP following in their trail and dividing the votes, and then you have a block vote for APC, and eventually, maybe with just less than even 1 million, APC would win that election.
Okay.
And that is what is likely to play out. If they ignore the resilience of PDP and they are not making overtures to PDP.
At the stage PDP is now, do you think that PDP is able to pull off anything in 2020?
They will. They will.
If Atiku leaves?
They will. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
At least PDP has about 9 governors now.
Okay.
And
9 governors that are likely to jump ship.
And probably to APC.
To APC.
But those 9 governors...
Depleting the ranks of the PDP.
What I'm saying is, whatever is left of PDP,
okay,
going into that election, will still have a fraction of the votes.
Even if Atiku leaves?
Even if Atiku leaves, they will still have a fraction of the votes. The only reason why, for instance, somebody like Seyi Makinde, you know that Adeleke has just recently pledged support for Tinubu.
Exactly.
And it's a PDP stalwart.
Good.
Mba has also done the same thing in Enugu. So what we are saying technically is that they need to bring PDP, ADC needs to bring PDP wholesale to ADC before that election.
You know,
so that it will be a 2-horse race.
But that is not going to happen. You know why it will
That's
happen?
what I'm saying.
Okay.
That APC will not even allow it to happen.
Okay.
Because
of the Wike factor.
Yes, Wike would always do the bidding. Wike is the poster boy of APC today.
Okay.
Forget about any sentiment that anybody is saying, deriding him or anything. But it's the poster boy of APC, okay, because he's doing the bidding of APC, as it were. And as long as he continues to do that bidding, making sure that PDP does not die, but cannot function.
Okay.
You know, it's one thing to kill, but it's another thing to render comatose.
Okay.
When you render somebody comatose, if you know that you still need him to do the actual job, you can still pump adrenaline into their system.
Okay, all right. Let's go. Let's examine the options now available to ADC. You know, let's even concede without agreeing.
Yes.
You know that look, this coalition has been formed, and there is an ADC that
Yes.
is no like a mega party now. You know, there's an elephant in the living room, which even the gladiators, the promoters are not willing to talk about. And that is who is going to flag the fly
That is
of
it.
of the PDP, of the ADC.
Yes.
Because Atiku has presidential ambition, who is not willing to drop. Peter Obi has, and probably El-Rufai.
El-Rufai is also nothing.
No sin, you know.
And
you
you never can tell some other people that would also move into this
move
party,
into this
that
party.
would also say, I am ambitious.
Mind you, Ralph Nwosu, the national chairman of the party, is also there. He might have his own candidate. So in all of this,
I'm sure that Aregbesola is also looking towards ADC now.
towards ADC. You know, so he might also have an ambition.
Yes.
And mind you, the ruling party naturally will sponsor some big boys
Of course,
into the ADC
to infiltrate them.
infiltrate to go and cause problems. So would that be some kind of obstacle?
I said the
Because
major,
even the major promoters themselves are saying that, look, no, what we are trying to do is, first of all, form a party that is strong and viable before we start talking about positions. Are they not living in self-denial?
you know the problem I have with this coalition is that you have a top-heavy political party that is going to emerge. And each of these gladiators having their eye on the ball, which is the presidency. Now, if you extray Atiku, Atiku is keeping his block and is still funding this block. Today, there are 33 people in Atiku media office. None of them have been sacked. You think it's for the fun of it? No! Because he still has his eye on the ball. Peter Obi, riding on the crest of the obedient movement, also feels he is big enough to become the president of Nigeria. Lastly, where the problem will come is the northern elements would want to queue behind Atiku, if only for him to bring power back to the north earlier than expected. And to achieve that, there is possibility of luring Peter Obi to come to the fray and given vice presidential ticket. The moment they give Peter Obi vice presidential ticket, knowing that politicians don't keep to agreement, I can bet you, before the first term of Atiku, Peter Obi would have been rubbished to the extent that even the Southeast will not want to touch Peter Obi again. Because they're going to push impossible tasks to him and make sure that he's rendered comatose, that they will now begin to start that narrative that, look at somebody you said is going to reform Nigeria. Look at what he has done. We did this to him. Meanwhile, they will be the ones to put obstacles on his ways. They will be the ones to put obstacles on his ways. But they will also let Nigerians know that, look at the way they rubbished Oshibajo towards the tail end of that administration. The only thing he was doing was to attend funeral services for Buhari and then distribute trader money.
Okay, so before we move on, do you think that Obi will accept to run as Atiku's vice presidential candidate?
It is possible for him to agree.
Okay.
Because Peter Obi has also shown some traits of desperation to become president of Nigeria.
Like?
You see, there are certain things that are not natural to Peter Obi now.
Okay.
Eating on the street with people. It's not natural to him. Peter Obi is an elitist technocrat that had nurtured businesses around the world. So for him to condescend to that level, it means he's desperate for power. So for me, it's a no-no for Peter Obi if he wants to retain that integrity mantra.
Okay.
For him to run under an Atiku has a very huge bag that will not make him even proceed to anywhere. And there is no way power would return to the north in 2027 and then they will, on a platter of gold, hand over power to the south, and particularly
okay,
southeast.
Let's talk about the north-south divide and the rotation. Do you think that The whole North. A lot of people have said that, look, that the North is very clever, that they are not likely to support the Northern candidate because that the Northern candidate is going to upset the system. You heard one of our guest analysts here, Francis Chilaka, said that the North is not likely to support a Northern candidate because it's going to upset the balance.
Of course.
That they will rather look for a candidate from the South, throw their weight behind him, so that the person will now rough it out with a Tinubu, and that the person will simply do 4 years and hand over power to the North to continue with the 8 years. In that instance, they have maintained the balance. The South will have been said to have, okay, you people have done 8 years, now it's our turn to do our own 8 years. In all of that scenario, the scenario that we have created now, who is that likely person in the South that you think that the North can
Let me tell you.
fall behind?
Let me tell you. The North is still, particularly the PDP extraction in the North, they are still bitter about their woeful performance in the Southeast, the last election. The Southeast usually was the PDP enclave until 2023 election. So now, what they are saying now is, okay, it's now to your 10th OE's trail. If there is anything, unfortunately, if not for the crisis in PDP, there is a school of thought that they are trying to raise Makinde, the governor of Oyo State, and was already warming up to take the ticket of PDP. That could be in line with what you are saying.
Okay. To divide the votes in the Southwest.
You understand? But I tell you, a Northerner is not likely to look at the way of Peter Obi.
Okay. Why do you think so?
I'll just give you an example. They still believe that it was Peter Obi's coming out that denied them the presidency.
In
The first, in 2020.
Okay, now I like the fact that you talked about Seyi Makinde. The PDP governors met. He hosted them last about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And there were the decision in unison that said, look, we are not going to be part of any coalition, but our doors are open. You know, anybody that wants to be part of the PDP can come. We welcome everybody, you know. Shortly after that, they held another meeting in Abuja, and Wike was part of that meeting. Wike made, you know, and a surprise appearance at that meeting.
That couldn't have been a surprise appearance.
Okay.
It was clearly invited.
For the optics. For the optics.
Yes.
What we were told was that he made a surprise appearance. Now, at that meeting, Wike said, look, PDP should not repeat the mistake of 2023 by fielding a northern candidate. That they should take the ticket to the south. And 2 days later, Wike said, look, I am not interested in running against Tinubu. He is my principal at this moment. Moreover, I have not seen any Nigerian politician who can square up with Tinubu in 2023. In 2027, what is Wike playing?
The script that was handed over to him to play. He knows that.
Or the president's script?
The president's script, the APC script, that make sure you hold down PDP until 2027.
And by bringing the ticket to the south?
Yes. Who is that person in the south that can muzzle Tinubu out of government?
Okay, but wouldn't that divide the vote of the south against the north? If a south
the north is no longer monolithic as you think.
Okay.
It's no longer monolithic.
So the permutations have clearly changed.
It has changed. APC has a very strong hold in the north, just like the PDP. And any coalition that is coming in is going to slice through what has been embedded in the north. Kaduna is bitter against APC, whereas some other states in the north, like Nasarawa, is planked with APC. So the dynamics have changed. It's no longer the 19 states delivering for the north anymore. You think a Benue man will want to vote APC with all that has been happening to them in the last 10 years? You think a Plateau man will want to vote APC with all that they have been experiencing in the last 10 years? 8 years of Buhari and 2 years of Tinubu? No, the dynamics have changed. Why do we have a APC winning in some of those states that were naturally the enclave of PDP in the north? So the dynamics have changed. And one thing again that we have lost cognizance of is the fact that while we are struggling with power in the south, the northern states are waiting for the beautiful bride. And I can tell you today that APC is more at work in the north than in the south. So if you think
APC is more at work in the north than in the south,
yes,
because of the angst of the north.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
And I tell you, you see, when 2003 election was coming up, I was on a national television analyzing, and I said, look, you guys are counting on the vote in the south, but Kano alone can upset the vote of 5 southern states. Kano alone. Katsina alone can upset the vote of 3 states in the south.
Even what on Borno?
You know how it goes. You see, when we come on here like this, we shouldn't deceive Nigerians by giving them the ideal. We should give them the reality.
But those votes, are they real votes? Because you can imagine that a state like Borno State, you know, in crisis, under terrorism, was able to produce millions of votes.
Is it not the same thing?
At the general election. Look at what happened
consistently from 1999 to 2015. The number of voters in the South, registered voters, comes up with the number of votes in an election in some of these states. No death, no migration, no birth.
No. Apart from that, we are even talking about crisis-prone areas like Borno.
No, I have the same thing that happened in the south, particularly south, is what is going on in the north.
So in all of this,
what we now see is, you see, there is nowhere. When George Bush Jr. won election in the US, it was a clear rigging of election. But because they want to preserve the sanctity of democracy in America, supposed sanctity, but they didn't go to court. It is not that if the opposition would have gone to court that time, it probably would have won. But they want to make sure that that name that was given to them as bastion of democracy, they want to maintain it. You understand? Now, there is nowhere where election will take place that will not be rigging. Let's face facts.
In Nigeria, right?
In Nigeria, elsewhere.
Okay.
You understand? Why would somebody be consistently be winning elections over a period of 30, 35 years and the country is not moving forward? Because they have perfected the art of rigging. It could be coercion, it could be manipulation, it could be inducement, but everybody rigs. The extent of your rigging prowess will be determined by your popularity in an area. Can ADC come to Lagos and say they want to rig? I mean, the old ADC. Can old AAC, now as it is today, can ADC come to Oyo State and say they want to rig? Who is going to provide the machinery? No. It is only PDP, APC that will set up the machinery to rig.
Okay. Mr. Fanimo, let's examine the 2027 election. You know, how do you think Nigerians will vote in 2027? Do you think they are going to vote on party or individual basis?
Chukwuma,
sir,
I have covered elections in this country.
Okay.
And I've seen surprises that are shocking. I'll just give you one example.
Okay.
2 days to election in Ekiti State, I was one of the observers. I went to Ekiti State, and because of my identity card as a journalist, which allows me to move around the whole of the length and breadth of Ekiti, I was there live. Do you know that 2 days to the election in Ekiti, the election that brought in Oyebanji, everybody was rooting for Segun Oni. Everybody in Ekiti, find out if I'm lying. But on the eve of the election day, the equation changed. Money became the dominant factor. Young girls and boys were displaying words of naira notes. That how can I leave this and say I want to vote for somebody who is not giving me anything? And how much is this? 10,000. In some cases, 5,000, depending on the strength of the party. Now, if you think that people will vote according to their conscience, wait on that day. In one instance, I was in a polling unit. When you get to that polling unit, the APC guy in a corner, not too far away from the polling unit, will just wave his identity. This is APC Kubico. This is PDP. You look and say, and in some cases, they will even flag how much they are paying. They'll just say 5,000. This one will say 10,000. There's a cardboard where they wrote 10K, 5K. So when SDP raises 3K and then APC raises 10K, PDP now raises 5K, do you think they will go? Now, what they do is, you go and register with the APC that is paying 10K, and then they will not give you the 10K. Then you move to the polling unit, do accreditation and everything. And then when you want to vote, your ballot, you will now press your thumb on the party you prefer, based on what is waiting for you.
The agreement you made outside.
Yes. Then, just to show that you don't want the ink to spill and you want it to dry, whereas to the electoral officer, you are making sure that the ink dries before you drop your ballot. But in actual fact, you are showing that merchant who calls himself agent that, look, I have delivered. And as soon as you deliver, you drop it in the box, you go back and collect your 10,000. So how do you now determine how do you now gauge the barometer of voters?
So essentially, you are of the opinion that 2027 is still going to be business as usual.
It's going to be business as usual.
We also saw people who rejected inducement.
What is the fraction of those who rejected compared to those who
took? That number is going to grow based on what Nigerians are passing through at the moment.
With this tipping, with this endemic poverty,
should the poverty spur Nigerians into action, or should they have a sense of surrender or a sense of
it's a sense of surrender, because they are short-sighted, they are myopic in their thinking. They assume that if I don't take, what would I survive on? Meanwhile, somebody gives you 10,000 naira and can only wait for you the next 4 years, if you are still living, to give you another 10,000. Now, 10,000 divided by 4 years, according to year basis, is 2,000 naira 500 per year. Divided into months. So at the end of the day, for a day you live, for the 4 years, you are only getting like maybe 20 naira or 30 naira for every day you live for 4 years.
You have painted a very scary picture, because
but that's the reality.
With all the mobilization that the media, civil society organizations are doing, you think that these things are not making impact on the people?
They are not making impact.
So what do we do?
As a matter of fact, for me, I see it as a helpless situation. But then, even in the midst of this hopelessness, we can still find hope.
What happened? We were hopeless in 2015. We were hopeless in 2015 until the APC came to change the narrative. So do we see the ADC coming to change the narrative again? Because people are disgruntled.
My worry about that,
the APC.
My worry about that is there is no fire like 2015. There was no fire.
Was there fire in 2013?
In 2023.
In 2013.
Wait.
Was there fire?
In 2023.
Okay.
There was fire.
In 2023, yes.
Yes, there was fire.
Against the APC, right?
Against the APC. There was fire. But I cannot see the fire again. Now,
You
the
can't see
obedience,
fire.
the
Probably
obedience.
because the government is working.
No, because energy had been dissipated over time. Some people fell out of that bus because they felt, with all my strength, with all my might and drive to ensure that we install a good government. Eventually, what we felt was not going to happen happened. So, what is my lot in the next election? Some of them fell by the wayside. And it will be a disaster if Peter Obi decides to serve either under El-Rufai or Atiku as vice presidential candidate. The obedience will diminish in number.
Okay. All right. Dele, before you give your concluding thoughts, now if you put everything that you know together about the opposition, the coming together, the gang up in the north and all of that, you know, the rising power of consolidation within the APC,
yes.
Talking about the defections, governors, yes. Senators, members of the House of Reps moving to the APC. Do you think there's some kind of magic that somebody or a group of people can wrought to take power away from Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the APC?
You see, this contraption cannot wrest power from Tinubu.
No,
But
aside from
we should hope and expect that an eruption like that of the obedience would happen before 2027. That is the only way. And the eruption will come from this age bracket, 18 to 40. Because they own the future of this country. By the grace of God, I'm on the second half of my march on earth. That's the truth. No matter how you look at it, you are on the second half. But your children, my children, are on the first half. So it is their responsibility to make sure that they galvanize themselves and raise the power from our generation and see how best they can manage this country for a better future for them and their own generation and even the generation coming behind them. If they don't do that and they allow these old players that are self-centered, that only consider their own ambition and the money they will make and the proceed of their endeavor, then we are not going anywhere. That's
all
the
right,
truth.
Mr. Dele Fanimo, we are clearly out of time. I'd like for you to put together your concluding thoughts, or should I take that as a
Take that as my concluding thought.
All right, now this is where we wrap up this conversation. I've been speaking with Mr. Dele Fanimo, political affairs analyst, and he's VOP in-house analyst, by the way. Now, on behalf of the backroom staff, the technical director, Victor Igris, the bass man, Ikechukwu Ezema, the sound engineer, Jerry, and the ingest man, Alex Scott, I am Chukwuma Okoro. Up next is Issues with Jerry Apollo High. Stay with us and don't go away.